Hello and welcome. We're going to jump right in and explore a massive question that pretty much every company is facing right now with this absolute tidal wave of information coming at us every single second. How do you manage it all? We're going to trace the journey from the old school data systems to a brand new architecture that is seriously shaping our future. Let's get into it. It all boils down to this one simple question. Every time you click something, every purchase you make, every sensor out there, it's all creating data. We know it's valuable, but storing it, managing it, and, most importantly, actually using it is a huge challenge. So, where do you put it all? For the longest time, there were really two main answers to that question. And yep, those answers were data warehouses and data lakes. You can think of them as two competing philosophies, two different schools of thought on how to store big data, and each one had its own set of pros and cons. This slide really gets to the heart of the difference. Over on the left, you've got the data warehouse. Think of it like a perfectly organized library. Everything has a specific spot, it's designed for structured data, and it's all optimized for one thing, analysis. Then, on the right, you have the data lake. That's more like a giant reservoir. You can just pour any kind of data into it, structured, unstructured, videos, server logs, you name it, all in its raw, original format. So let's break that down a little more. A warehouse uses what's called schema on write. It's a fancy term, but it just means you have to define the exact structure of your data before you're allowed to load it in. The data lake, on the other hand, is all about schema on read. You can just dump everything in first and worry about the structure later when you actually want to analyze it. So the warehouse gives you reliability, but the lake, that gives you some serious flexibility. But here's where our story takes a turn. Having to choose between these two systems, forcing a choice between structure and flexibility, well, it wasn't a perfect solution. In fact, it started to create some pretty serious headaches for people. And that right there is the key. In the process of trying to solve the data storage problem, the industry accidentally created a whole new set of challenges. And these challenges were actually holding businesses back from getting all the value they could from their data. So what went wrong? Well, first up, data silos. Companies ended up with both, right? They'd have a warehouse for their business intelligence teams and a data lake for their data scientists. The data was totally fragmented, living in two completely separate systems, which made getting a single, clear view of anything almost impossible. And on top of that, warehouses just weren't built to handle the insane volume and variety of data we have today. They really struggled to scale. Meanwhile, over in the data lake world, things weren't perfect either. They often became what people started calling data swamps. Without really strong rules and governance, they just turned into this messy, unreliable dumping ground. And trying to move data between the lake and the warehouse, oh man, that required these super complex, expensive, and fragile processes called ETL. That's extract, transform, and load. And they were just a constant drain on time and money. So the stage was set. The demand was getting louder and louder for a unified solution, something that could finally combine the best of both worlds. And out of that need, a new architecture was born. I love this quote because it clears up something that confuses a lot of people. The Lakehouse, that's the big idea, the architectural pattern, the blueprint. And Delta Lake, that's a key open source technology that gives you the tools to actually build a lakehouse. So one is the blueprint, the other is the building material. So what exactly is a lakehouse? Well, it's a new kind of data architecture that gives you those reliable, structured data management features you love from a warehouse, but it puts them directly on top of the low-cost, super scalable storage of a data lake. The bottom line is, you no longer have to choose between structure and flexibility. You get both. And this diagram just shows it all so perfectly. Look over on the far left. You have all your data sources, structured, semi-structured, totally unstructured, all flowing in. They all land in a single, unified storage layer that's built on open formats. And from that one single platform, it can power everything you see on the right, from standard BI reports and dashboards all the way to advanced data science and machine learning. It's one system for all your data and all your teams. Okay, so the Lakehouse is the goal, but how does it actually work? Let's take a look under the hood at the core technology that makes this whole unified approach even possible. This is the secret sauce. It's called Delta Lake. It's an open source storage layer that just sits right on top of your existing data lake. Its superpower is that it brings something called ACID transactions to your data. Now that stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. But simply put, it brings the same level of trust and reliability you'd expect from a traditional database to these massive petabyte-scale datasets. This is the key to preventing that dreaded data swamp. And those ACID transactions, that's just the start. Delta Lake also enforces data schemas to make sure everything is high quality and consistent. It even lets those schemas change over time without breaking everything. And this part is huge. It unifies your batch and streaming data, which dramatically simplifies those complicated data pipelines we talked about earlier. It's like it directly addresses every single one of the biggest pain points of the old systems. So we've seen the tech, but let's zoom back out and connect this to the big picture. Why is this shift from all these separate systems to one unified lakehouse so important? The benefits are just huge. It's way more cost efficient because you're not paying for it and managing two separate storage systems anymore. It's incredibly flexible, supporting every type of data and every kind of project, from BI all the way to AI. It delivers incredible performance and scalability by using cloud storage, and maybe most importantly, it just dramatically simplifies data management and governance by creating a single source of truth for all of your data. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In a world where data is literally the engine of innovation, having a solid, unified architecture isn't just a nice to have. It's an absolute necessity. The Lakehouse presents this powerful, compelling vision for the future of data. And the question for all of us is this the blueprint that will finally unlock its full potential? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.